everybody, welcome back. In this video I'm going to show you how to play the guitar solo from Van Halen's cover of Dancing in the Streets off of their Diver Down album. Now I'm really excited to share this one with you guys because this is the first time anyone has posted a video here on YouTube including the tablature for this solo. And the regulars here know that I don't just post the same old recycled, unreliable, broken tabs that are circulating elsewhere on the internet. I create my own after doing a ton of research and analysis. So hopefully you'll enjoy it, but I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments section below what you think. And the last thing I want to do is I need to give a shout out to Bare Knuckle Pickups. I am using their VH2 pickup here in the bridge position, which is part of their Vintage Hot series. And as the name implies, it's supposed to be a Van Halen inspired pickup from the early days. And I really love what it's done for this guitar, so check them out. All right, let's go ahead and jump on into it. Now the first thing I'm going to do is play the entire solo for you slowly with the tablature on the screen. That way the more advanced players can get through this more quickly, and then after that we'll break it down into bite-sized pieces. Let's go. Here's section 1 at normal and then slow speed. So let's break that up into two boxes, and in the first one we play this. Now we're going to be using a unison bend here, and you probably already know what that is, but I'll explain it anyway. So you're going to have your index finger on the 13th fret of the B string, and then your ring finger on the 15th of the G. You play those two notes together and bend up the G string. Right, so the two notes come together in pitch. Then you hold that and do the whammy bar 7 times. Then in the second box we'll play this. Again, we've got more unison bends. The first one is at 12 of B and 14 of G. And then the second one is 10 of B, 12 of G. You'll notice on the second one that I hold it for a little bit, add a little whammy bar dip, and slide down. A lot of people miss that whammy bar dip. It's kind of buried in the mix. Okay, now let's tie both of those boxes together and play section 1 at slow and then normal speed. Okay, let's move on to section 2. Here's section 2 at normal and then slow speed. You know, tabbing and trying to get that harmonic just right was a bit challenging, but also kind of fun. We'll get to that in a second, but in the first box, we're going to do this. So what you're doing is you're bending up at the 2nd fret of the G string 1.5 steps. That takes the note from here to here. Then you hold that bend for a little bit, then add 5 whammy bar dips and bring it down quickly. One more thing I want to call out about that first box there is a lot of times you'll see it tabbed and played where instead of bending up at the 2nd fret 1.5 steps, they bend up from the 4th fret just a half a step, okay? Like that, but it's not right. If you go back and listen to the original, you can hear Eddie bending up from the 2nd fret. Now in the second box, we play this. Now trying to tab that accurately was a bit challenging, but first let's call out what the harmonic is. You'll notice I've tabbed it as 3.2. That's an approximation, okay? Because you're not going to hit it at the third fret. You're moving just past the third fret, okay? Just past it. You'll have to experiment with your guitar to find the exact spot. And if for some reason you can't hit that note, it's basically a D note, by the way. You could come all the way up here and hit this D note and do something like that. But you want to get that harmonic down, I know, so keep practicing and you'll get that 3.2 harmonic down. And I tried to tab it out as accurately as I could in terms of how you're doing the whammy bar dip. But guys, don't get hung up on that. You're just going to have to feel it. And I've never seen anyone actually go to this level of detail to try and get this whammy bar dip transcribed like this. Here's an example of what I found in a tab book. You can see they just got kind of lazy. I don't blame them. It's kind of hard to tab. So don't try to read those numbers. Just go with what feels right. All right, let's tie those two boxes together and play section 2 one more time at slow and then normal speed. All right, let's move on to section 3. Here's section 3 at normal and then slow speed. All right, let's break that up into 4 boxes, and in the first one we play this. Let me slow that down. Only thing I really want to call out there is you'll notice that I'm not picking that first note, I'm just sliding up to the 11th fret. Okay, you're going to see that throughout this solo, right? It's just you're coming in and out of each section, sliding into the note from before. Okay, you can pick that note if you want. Then in the second box we play this. Let me slow that down. Okay, now first of all, you're tapping on the 15th fret with your pick. So you hold your pick sideways, tap on the fret and slide up. Here, let me show you what it looks like from a little bit of a side angle, how I'm holding the pick. Now I also want to call out here that it can be challenging to do a tapped pick slide up without it sounding kind of messy. It's not as clean as with your finger, right? It's a little bit... Sometimes you catch other strings, it can be kind of messy, but that's okay because once you mix it in with the rest of the band and you add your effects or whatever, most people aren't going to notice the extra little string noise there, so don't get too hung up on that. And then after that you play, okay? Now moving from that 15th fret pick tap slide up to the next note, which is 13 on the B string, you are picking that next note, which can be a little bit tricky. So what I do is as I slide up, then I quickly pivot my hand to do a pick. Okay? I mean, alternatively, you could just slide up and off and try to pull off to that 13th fret note, right? You could do that, but it sounds like Eddie picked the note. But don't get too hung up on that. I think either way you do it, you should be just fine. Then in the next box, we do this. Now this time you're tapping on the 22nd fret and sliding down. Now a lot of times people miss that it's a pick tap slide down, and instead they do one up. People often miss that, but you listen closely, you'll hear it. Now the challenging part again, of course, is going from the pick tap slide down to picking the next note. Notice how I pivot my hand once again? You can certainly try and pull off, right? That it's a little bit noisier, I suppose, not a little bit more messy. Either way, you should be fine. Then in the final box, we do this. Now it's very similar to that second box because you start off by tapping your pick onto the 15th fret, sliding up, and then let's tie those 4 boxes together and play section 3 one more time at slow and then normal speed. Okay, let's move on to section 4. Here's section 4 at normal and then slow speed. Okay, we'll break it up into 2 boxes, and in the first one. So in that box, I want to call out that you start off by sliding up to the 11th fret without picking it. You can certainly pick it if you want. And then you've got that 13th fret bend up 1.5 steps. So it's from here to here. Add a little bit of a vibrato at the top. Then you've got a pick slide. Now getting that pick slide in there can be a little bit challenging at normal speed. Oftentimes I'll just start the pick slide and then keep going with my hand. Because I think what happened is Eddie was doing that old comping technique wherein he would do a bunch of takes of the solo and then splice together the best parts. Sounds like that's what he was doing, but don't get too hung up on that. And then in the second box we play. Let me slow that down. A couple things I want to call out here. You'll notice that when we play the 10th fret of the D string, we've got little quarter step bends in there. People often miss that. Then when we get down to the A string, you'll notice I've got the 11th and 10th frets in a smaller font. It's because you go through those notes a little bit quicker. Okay, let's tie those 2 boxes together and play section 4 one more time at slow and then normal speed. Okay, let's move on to section 5. Okay, here's section 5 at normal and then slow speed. All right, we'll break it up into 2 boxes, and in the first one we play this. Let me slow that down for you. Now, a lot of times people miss that first note where you slide up to the 11th of A. Okay, they miss that a lot, but it's buried in there. And then I also want to call out that when we do the 13th fret bend on the B string, notice how I tab it 3/4 of a step up. Because it's not halfway, it's not a full step, it's just somewhere in between. But you know, you can probably play it with a half step bend or a full step. Either way, most people won't know. But because it's such a fast little bend in there, you're probably going to be better off doing a shorter bend than a full step. Okay, but do what's most comfortable for you. Most people won't notice the difference. But my ear hears a 3/4 step bend in there. Then in the second box, let me slow that down for you. Now, I see people struggle with this section quite a bit, and they play it a lot of different ways. They end up improvising a lot during this part. And I think what kind of holds them back is look 4 notes in, where we start with the 12th fret of the high E, and you'll notice that the next couple notes there, they're all smaller, right? It's because we're going through those notes quicker. A lot of people miss that part. Right? They miss that and they kind of improvise when it comes to that part. Now, I've actually seen this tabbed exactly like this in a diver down tablature book. And the only difference, though, is that when we get down to the 12th fret of the G string that first time, that note, they do open G instead. Instead of... I think either way you're going to be fine. Now, it's probably easier to play that open G string note. So if you want to do that, you can, because most people probably won't know the difference. The reason I say it's easier, because after you play that note on the 12th fret, then you have to transition back to the B string and do a bend up and down. Okay, to do that at the right speed can be a bit challenging. So try replacing the first time you do the 12th fret of the G with open G and see what works best for you. Okay, let's tie those 2 boxes together and play section 5 one more time at slow and then normal speed. All right, let's move on to section 6. All right, here's section 6 at normal and then slow speed. All right, now up until now, you've been playing in the key of D. You've been going back and forth from D to G, right? Now it's moving into F sharp. And there's a lot of chromaticism going on here. Classic Eddie descending chromatic move. Let me play it slowly. Let's break it up into 4 boxes. And in the first one, we do this. Should be easy enough. Then in the second box, we play this. Now you'll notice that when I pick the non-bent notes, I'm giving it a tiny little micro bend, like, I don't know, 16th of a step or 8th of a step, somewhere in there, just barely. And it's choppy, right? You want to stop the note after you play it. And in the third box, same thing. Got to make it sound choppy, stop it after playing it each time and give it tiny, tiny little micro bends. Then in the final box, now after playing that 15th fret of the G string, then you've got the 14th fret with some bending going on. The first is just a straight 1 step up bend. And at the top, you hit that note again that's already bent. Okay? And you'll notice I'm using my index finger for that bending. Eddie does that a lot. I've talked about this in past Van Halen lessons. People might be tempted to kind of shift their fingers down because it's easier to bend with, a different finger, but you want to get used to that if you're going to play a lot of Van Halen solos, bending up with your index finger. Now with the final 2 bends there, I could have tabbed that as wide vibrato, but I decided to tab it as bends because the vibrato, if you want to consider it that, is just as wide as the bends before it. Okay. All right, let's tie those 4 boxes together and play section 6 one more time at slow and then normal speed. Okay, let's move on to section 7. Here's section 7 at normal and then slow speed. Now with section 7, the key is shifted to B. All right? And in the first box, we play this. So again, you're sliding up, this time to the 8th fret of G without picking it. Again, pick it if you want. Then in the second box, we play this. Let me slow that down. Now what I want to call out here is that when we play 10 on B, pull off to 7, pull off to open, it's a little bit quicker than the notes after it. Then in the third box, we play this. So what I want to call out there is first that 7th fret G string quarter step bend. People miss that. They just play a straight note usually. But listen closely, you'll hear the quarter step bend in there. And then of course at the end you've got another bend up with your index finger. You're at the 5th fret of the A string this time. Again, I recommend you really get that down with your index finger. It'll pay off when you're learning other Van Halen solos. All right, let's tie those 3 sections together and play section 7 one more time at slow and then normal speed. All right, let's move on to the final section, section 8. Here is section 8 at normal and then slow speed. All right, in the first box, we'll play this. So first you're going to be sliding up to that 11th fret, once again without picking it. If you want to pick it, sure, you can do that, no problem. And then at the end, accidental A and D, you don't have to pick that. It sounds more like Eddie lifted his fingers off the string and those notes sounded. You can hear it there in the mix. You can certainly skip that open A and D if you want. Now you may be wondering here, like, what was he doing playing the 11th fret of G and the 11th of high E over this section where it sounds like he's over an E, right? Why would you play over? Well, that's because actually he's still over the prior section with the B chord at that point. And that makes a lot of sense. We've got a fifth and a major third. It's kind of like that classic, blues turnaround dyad thing. And then he gets into the key of E. Let's play that first box one more time. Then in the second box, we play this. Now you'll notice that over the 14th, 15th, 17th, and 19th frets, I've tabbed there, I've got this symbol. That's the symbol for tremolo picking, right? You probably know what tremolo picking is. Now I could have tabbed that out instead of using the tremolo picking symbol. I could have tabbed it out like, okay, play the 14th fret 3 times and then the 15th 4 times. But that would not have helped you, okay, to get the right feel. It's better when it comes to tremolo picking sections that you just feel it and don't try to count it, or it'll come across mechanical. Then in the third and final box, we play this. Okay, let's combine those 3 sections together and play section 8 one more time at slow and then normal speed. All right, that was my lesson on how to play the guitar solo from Van Halen's cover of Dancing in the Streets. I hope you found it helpful or informative. If you did, I would appreciate a thumbs up, and please hit that subscribe button if you have not done so already. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and I will attempt to answer them as time allows. Until next time, rock on.